Welcome to the Canadian Beef Cattle Podcast, presented by the Beef Cattle Research Council, the most popular content from beefresearch.ca, available on the go. Before we get into today's episode, a quick message from the BCRC. Understanding feed quality is paramount to maintaining animal health and welfare and can even help beef producers save money. Feed quality cannot be accurately assessed by simply looking at it. Feed testing should be performed prior to feeding. Having accurate feed test results can help avoid sneaky production problems caused by mineral deficiencies or excesses, prevent or identify potentially devastating problems due to anti-nutritional factors, develop appropriate rations, identify nutritional gaps, and economize feeding. The BCRC has 2 free interactive tools that can help evaluate the economic value of feeds based on nutrient content and assess the nutritive value of a single feed. Links to both calculators can be found in the show notes. This episode is titled, Ergot in Feed. Is there a safe concentration for beef cattle? Cattle that consume feeds contaminated with the plant disease ergot can have reduced feed intake, gangrene of extremities, lameness, loss of pregnancy, and heat stress. Ergot is caused by a fungus. The alkaloids, toxins present in the ergot bodies are toxic to cattle. Another fungi species causes fusarium head blight and produces dawn, which can also be toxic to cattle. Many types of feed, including cereal crops, can become infected by ergot and contain hazardous concentrations of alkaloids, with the risk of cattle toxicity increasing if other mycotoxins like dawn are present. Ergot typically develops when wet and cool conditions occur during the flowering stages of cereals and grasses. However, ergotism in cattle has been observed in drought years as well. Grain screenings can be highly contaminated with ergot and often are an interesting alternative feed resource in a drought year. In 2023, Dr. Gabriel Ribeiro and his team at the University of Saskatchewan completed a study evaluating the impacts of increasing concentrations of ergot in cattle performance. One trial, led by master's student Jenna Sarich, fed feedlot cattle concentrations of ergot alkaloids ranging from 0.0 ppm to 3.0 ppm on a dry matter basis. By April, the cattle fed the high alkaloid diet began to show signs of heat stress, including open mouth panting on days that were averaging about 17 degrees Celsius to 20 degrees Celsius. To measure the possible impacts of ergot on blood flow to extremities, the team used infrared imaging to capture the changes in temperature to the ears. The photo shows areas with lighter temperatures, primarily in the ears, eyes, and muzzle, which were the lightest colors. For an example of using infrared imagery to capture changes in temperature, visit the link to this article in the show notes. According to Jenna, susceptibility to heat stress is a result of decreased blood flow to the skin that prevents cattle from being able to dissipate heat. Cattle who were heat stressed also had higher body temperatures, which were measured rectally. Jenna also notes the impacted growth performance. Animals in the high ergot diet had significantly lower average daily gain, ADG, and dry matter intake, DMI, prior to switching to the ergot-free diet. When the ergot was removed, the poor performance was reversed and steers outperformed the control group, reaching similar weights by the end of the study, although heat stress symptoms did persist. Additionally, steers receiving 1.50 ppm had significantly impacted performance, ADG and DMI, by the end of the trial and presence of heat stress as well, although to a lesser extent than at 3.0 ppm. A second trial at AAFC Lethbridge looked at the combined effects of feeding ergot and dawn to 40 feedlot cattle. In the diet containing concentrations of both ergot 4 ppm and dawn 10 ppm, the animals showed a 36% decrease in dry matter intake, lost 16% of their body weight, and their average daily gains decreased by 55%. Renee Byerworth, a master's student of Dr. Ribeiro and Dr. Tim McAllister, suggests that the combination of mycotoxins demonstrated some compounded effects compared to feeding ergot or dawn on their own. The results of both trials suggest that the recommended concentrations for both ergot and dawn in feed cattle may need to be reevaluated. A big challenge for producers in dealing with the threat of mycotoxins is that they are a hidden problem. The presence of fungi or mold is a noticeable indicator of a possible threat, but the mycotoxins themselves are invisible, colorless, and odorless, and may be present whether or not ergot bodies are visible. The best way to measure the presence of mycotoxins in feed is to submit samples for a mycotoxin panel and an ergot alkaloid panel. So when buying feed, consider asking the feed mill nutritionist these questions. Do you test product for mycotoxins? Which ingredients do you test? How frequent is the testing? And are all staff trained to oversee incoming products? Ensuring feed quality also means following these best practices. Practice regular feed testing and mycotoxin screening. Remembering visual appraisal is unreliable. Never feed moldy feed to pregnant animals. Purchase cereal byproducts from reputable feed sources and test for mycotoxins prior to feeding if you are unsure. Cereal screenings and distillers grains, and source quality, ergot-free feed from trusted sources like feed mills, feed suppliers that have strong quality control measures in place. Thank you for listening to this week's episode. You can find all relevant links and information at beefresearch.ca or in the show notes. The Beef Cattle Research Council is funded by the Canadian Beef Cattle Checkoff and strives for excellence in the production of Canadian beef, cattle, and forage through research, innovation, and extension. Tune in every Tuesday as the Canadian Beef Cattle Podcast delivers straightforward insights, expert information, and a wealth of practical knowledge for Canadian beef producers. Subscribe now.